Welcome everyone to this academic session of the Master's Degree Program in Counseling and Family Therapy. In this session, we are going to have a panel discussion on a very vital area, that is counseling and family therapy in the context of children and adolescents. We have the pleasure of having a number of dignitaries and experts in the field on this panel today. Let me introduce the panelists to you. Professor Manju Mehta, she is Professor, Department of Psychiatry, All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Professor Kiran Devendra, she is Professor, Department of Elementary Education, NCERT, Delhi. We have Dr. Renu Gulati, she is Associate Professor at the Institute of Home Economics, Delhi. Dr. Vandana Thapar, she looks after the Adolescent Guidance Service Center at the National Institute of Public Cooperation and Child Development. And we have Mrs. Amita Mullah-Watal, who is the principal of one of the leading schools in Delhi, that's Springdale School, Pusa Road. So welcome everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
To set the ball rolling, may I pose this thematic aspect, this question to Professor Manju Mehta. What is the significance of counseling and family therapy in the context of children and adolescents today, addressing their mental health needs in the contemporary socio-cultural milieu?
Thank you, Dr. Nirja. This particular theme that you have taken up for today's discussion is very important, because what we are seeing in my experience of almost more than 3 decades, now more and more children and adolescents, they are having mental health problems. There are psychological problems which are part and parcel of the development, as well as these are also because of changing societal norms, changing values and thinking patterns of parents and society. The problems are increasing, and when these problems are increasing, the family therapy and counseling, it becomes very important, because majority of the disorders in children, they are not because of faulty genes or because of certain metabolic changes, but many of them, they are because of impact of the psychosocial factors, or it could be the interaction problems. And hence, to solve these problems, counseling and family therapy, this plays very important role. It is also very important because when children present with problems, many times children are not at fault because it is the parenting which is at fault, or it could be interaction between parent and child, or problems in the school which could be there, and hence addressing these problems is to be done only through counseling. So if we want, and the age is very important, because in childhood, when a child is showing certain problems, like it is adjustment problem, and it would have its direct impact on his academic achievement. In those cases, if we do not intervene, we do not provide them guidance and help them in developing positive coping, they would have these problems for entire life. So if we want them to become healthy citizens, it's very important that right in their childhood and adolescent period, intervention is provided to them. And family plays a very important role, because most of childhood problems, they are either precipitated by the family members, their behavior, their mode of interaction. It is very often enforced by the family members. For example, if a child is very naughty, he's aggressive, many parents would laugh and say, my child is very naughty, he's very smart, he'll beat others and come home. So they reinforce this particular negative behavior in the child. So giving counseling to the parents become very important, and many times it could be that they have to be involved in the therapy. In counseling, when we want a child to change his behavior, the parents should know about it, and they have to be part of the treatment team when we want to bring the change. Hence, because this is most important mode of intervening with the problems of children and adolescents, I feel that in this area, counselors and family therapists, they feel very satisfied, because through their efforts, they are able to make a particular child and adolescent as a healthy and productive person.
Thank you, ma'am. Childhood years indeed are the formative years of life. The experiences that one has as an individual during the childhood years, the adolescent years, almost lay the foundation for the rest of life that is to follow. And at the same time, no human being grows up in isolation. the development of the child takes place in the family, which is the microcosm of the society. The emotional environment within the family, the pattern of interrelationships in the family, the quality of relationships in the family play a very important role in the development of the child. So now I'd request Dr. Renu Gulati to focus on this aspect. What are the requirements of a family milieu to ensure that one's child grows up as a healthy, well-adjusted child and adolescent?
Thank you, Nirja. As we all know, that family is the primary agent of socialization for all children. And in this, it's very, very important for the parents themselves to have a very consistent point of view. They have to have consistency in their own relationships. A very important factor is how parents interact with each other, the kind of understanding they have with each other, because children are constantly looking up to parents. Parents are their role models. They are the primary role models for their developmental process. And even if parents say something but do something else, that is going to impact the child much more, because in their unconscious ways, children are imbibing all the actions, gestures, value system of the parents. So the relationship between parents, understanding between parents is one of the vital issues which is going to build the mental health of the child. And another point is the consistency of the kind of interaction they have with children, because very often we see that parents also fluctuate a lot. One day they are going to be very, very indulgent parents, and the next moment they want total obedience from children. So if parents have a balancing act, if they are democratic, if they listen to children, because it's very important that there is a two-way process. Interaction is required, and we also, as parents, we need to listen to our children. Sometimes children are giving us indicators which we are not willing to take on, and the manner in which if we are democratic, the child is automatically going to imbibe that value system, that mode of behavior. Another thing is that yes, we need to be flexible and firm. Now, it may sound contradictory, but it is very, very important for parents themselves. Certain times they have to be flexible, they have to be open. We also need to change with times, because as Dr. Manju Mehta also said, society is undergoing a dramatic change. And if we are rigid, if we are not open, it's going to be a problem. And for that, we need a lot of communication. We need to spend quality time with our children. We have to give them time apart from, leave everything aside, because children need that support. Today, children are also facing a lot of competition. There are so many external factors which are playing on their mind. And it is starting from childhood. It's not only during adolescence that it is coming. It is starting from very early years. And because of that, children also feel lost. Half the time when we go to schools and talk to children, they are saying we don't know whom to talk to. If parents are not available, that becomes a major issue in then children, turn to other agents of socialization who may not be so apt in helping them, guiding them. So it becomes very important that we spend time with our children, we communicate, we are open, we are consistent and yet flexible. So this is, and also we are role models. So the manner in which we behave, we are under scrutiny all the time. We are under microscope as a parent. So the manner in which we behave, children are going to imbibe, because we as parents are the first agents whom they identify with. They're constantly looking for, identification models. And for that, parents are the ones who have to provide a sense of security. And we are the ones who have to contribute towards their self-esteem, their self-confidence. And that is one of the primary areas which is affecting the mental health of the child today. So that is, these are some of the very important features for the development of the child at any stage. And it begins very early. If we think that a 3-year-old does not, feel ashamed, or his self-esteem can be affected, the manner in which we talk to the child. We have to have respect for our children. At any stage, children need that kind of respect. They need that dignity. We can't talk down to them. We have to come down to their level, all right, but we can't talk down to them, because that is what is going to cause a feeling of mistrust, feeling of inadequacy in children. And any kind of inadequacy is going to can lead to mental problems.
Thank you, Renu. I guess theoretically, as parents, we all would propound the notion that as an ideal parent, one should be firm, one should be affectionate, one should be flexible, and yet one should not be punitive. You should be a disciplinarian without being punitive, through rational means, through explanation, by being affectionate. You should communicate to the child about the do's and don'ts. And yet, as individual human beings, we are all fallible. The net result is a range of problems which our children and teenagers encounter, because be it the stresses of life, be it the crumbling social support system, the traditional extended families, where some family member would be available to the child or adolescent at time of need, which is now no longer there or diminishing in any case, we find that problems in children and teenagers, that is the problems that they're encountering wherein they need help, because that help is and support is not available. Those problems now are surfacing, increasing day by day. May I now request Dr. Vandana Thapar to give us an overview of, she heads the Adolescent Guidance Center at the National Institute of Public Cooperation and Child Development. So an exposure to the range of problems which they come across in the center.
So, actually, I mean, childhood is actually a time to have a lot of fun, and it's also a lot of time to develop that self-confidence and that self-esteem. But unfortunately, because of so much of competition which is taking place these days, and there is so much expectations which are related to academics and academics alone, the childhood is getting lost. So on one extreme, we have a whole range of academic difficulties which children come with, starting from the poor motivation to studies, to very poor basic foundation skills, to certain developmental difficulties like learning disabilities. So this is one range of scholastic related problems, to even things like school refusal. So on the other side end, we have children who are subjected to a lot of violence, and this violence is becoming a reality of our time. So on one side, we have physical punishment, we have battering, we have children who are emotionally abused by kind of punishment which are very, very humiliating, where their self-worth is being compromised on. And on the other side, we have sexual abuse, and this cannot be denied anymore. A lot of children are subjected to this abuse by people who are actually very, very close to them, and this is what the research says. Either they are very close within the reach of the family, or they are it's within the family itself. So it's a huge lot of violence which our children are facing, and also commercial sexual exploitation, which may not be there in the middle class homes, but which is a huge reality in our rural families. So this is one set of problems. Other set of problems are more related to developmental, you can say psychological problems of children, which relate to things like autism, mental retardation, then we have attention deficit disorders, then we have learning disabilities. So the point is, when the child is showing these symptoms, I mean, what you will see is just the symptoms, the behavioral aspect. So the child will be showing withdrawals, the child will be showing a lot of aggression, at times he will be showing no motivation for studies. A child might not show focus So he is flittering from one place to the other without any focus, attentional difficulties. So what you will see is symptoms, but every symptom will not have the, I mean, you won't be able to find out the causes from the symptoms. What you need to do is to really work out to understand what are the reasons behind the symptoms, because the same symptoms may be behind more than one cause. So a child who will have attentional difficulty may have a hardcore hyperactivity or a problem, or a child may have attentional difficulty only because he is got very poor foundation skills in studies and he cannot attend and focus on his studies. So every symptom, a symptom may be the same, but the cause may be very different. So therefore we need a kind of a dimensional assessment of different people to be able to understand the difficulty of the child. And since it is children, so talking therapies don't work. So often they can't tell you what is their problem if you ask them straight. An adult might be able to, but with children we need to work a lot of play techniques, lot of working with them, forming relationship with them, coming down to their level, trying to get it out through other indirect methods which they can relate to. So play is a very good medium which we try to use all the time with children. And when we work with children, we also work with families. It's very, very important to work with parents along with children, because unless and until the parents themselves are taken along with this process of work, we will find that we will reach a dead end. We know what is the reason for the problem, but actually the solution parents have to be the co-partners. So this whole process of work it takes its time. It's not like a child comes to you and you understand that this is the problem. You might have some hunch, but you really need to do a workout. And thereafter, the therapies also or the intervention also vary depending upon the problem. Sometimes we need to work more actively with the parent to alter the interactional difficulties. Sometimes we need to restructure the child's whole environment. So, and sometimes we need to work directly with the child. So, depending on the problem, the interventions as well would vary.
Thank you, Dr. Vanna. So, as it appears, a very major substantial proportion of children and adolescents who report to seek help, professional help in terms of counseling and family therapy seems to be rooted in the schooling system. So let me now request Mrs. Amita Mulawatl, who's had years of experience of heading a school system, a particular school that goes up to senior secondary stage. So on the basis of your years of wisdom through interacting with children and parents over the years, what do you think, ma'am, are the reasons? What are the factors in the schooling system that have contributed to this growing incidence and prevalence of problems that our school children and teenagers are facing? And what support do you think can having a counselor in the whole scenario, what role can that play? What's the significance of that in helping to cope and alleviate the problem?
Firstly, I'd like to say that the whole important thing is that all of what my colleagues here are saying is resonating with what we need to have done in school systems. It's a very important thing that we have to understand, that the life of a child is not a package deal. It has within it the sounds, the smells, the images of its growing up years. Having said that, what is most important is that it's not about having one counselor or two counselors in the school. It's about the entire school becoming an agency of counseling. Because the days have gone when you have one person and a child tries to miss a period to go and sit with a counselor. Now every single child needs counseling in the classroom. Essentially why? Because there are a lot of breakups that are happening in family systems. I see that every day. I have young couples who come and sit with me, whose children are in, say, nursery or kindergarten, who can't cope at one level. I have another group of parents who come to me who can't cope with their students at the middle level, and another group who turn around and tell me that their children are living like guests in their own home, and they're afraid of their own children because they're always afraid that wo kuch kar lega, something will happen. Now, if all the time the parent is in a sort of a fear psychosis that my child may commit suicide, my child may do something wrong, then there will be no question of a reasonable and a normal communication, because you'll always be on tenterhooks with the child. And so how do we look at this? Essentially, it is because there is hardly any relationship left that I see between spouses and families. Also, the only place where they can connect is when they come home in the evening, and that too, the only relationship they have with their child is, how did your day go in class? Have you done your work? Are you ready with your work? That's the only communication that I notice parents have with their children. Apart from that, there is no other communication. During holidays, they immediately ensure that the child must go to some workshop. What about quality time with themselves? The child has to have some sort of time with the parent community. As mentioned here just now, that we need to have quality time with the children. Why are we always in this huge situation where we want the child to be constantly activity oriented? The child has to spend time with the parent community. The child has to reflect on certain things. No time is given for any kind of reflection, any kind of growth. The kind of difficulties that I see in a school system, and for the last 35 years I've been working with schools at different levels. In the villages I have worked in schools, in metros I have worked in school, in smaller places of India I have worked in schools. And what have I seen? There are issues of alcohol abuse. There are issues of tobacco abuse. There are, as mentioned here by Dr. Thapar, there are issues of sexual abuse, and they happen across the board, except one is silent about these kind of things. But it's very imperative that we talk about it. It's also very imperative that we look at the way children look at learning. And as she mentioned very categorically, that violence has come into our system in a very big way. The Facebook is a violent vehicle at times, because I see a lot of cyberbullying going on the Facebook. I've just had a certain case where a young lady was very friendly with a young man, and then of course these things, they break up because these are infatuations, and the next thing you know, a whole site has been posted upon her. Now that is extremely shattering. How are we looking at these things? It's very important that we also see and we discuss with parent communities that when a child is involved with computers, how much time is being spent with the computer, and what exactly is the child doing. Very often parents feel that they're learning something through a computer, but most of the time they're having chatting. Also, the worry is that sometimes they enter chat rooms and they're associating a girl in class 8 is involving herself with a man who is 45 years old, who wants to meet her in Buddh Jayanti Park. Now, this is a very scary thing. The information technology explosion is very fine, but it also has its flip sides. How do we look at it? At a different level, now that with the RTE and the right to education, 25% of the poorest of the poor coming into schooling. At Springdales, we've had at least 35 years of very poor children coming into our schools. The classroom itself is stratified. You have children who have fragmented personalities, whether it is their not being able to cope with education, whether it's not being able to cope with self-esteem. Self-esteem is a very big problem. Very many adolescents have problems with who they are, what do they look like. The whole idea of being beautiful has become a very integral part of society today. They're not comfortable in their skins. All of us cannot be fair, all of us cannot be dark, all of us cannot be fat or thin. We have to be comfortable with who we are. The most important part of understanding this is where the parent himself has got into a psychosis of saying this child should be packed off to maybe a spa to lose weight. But if the parent himself gets involved with this kind of a situation with the child, how is the child going to develop? I do agree that it's very imperative that parents spend time with children, but that is not the reality. There are parents who are working, they have their own problems, they have elderly people in the house, and in many ways the school has become the source of salvation. And that is why it is important that class teachers are very, very clear about what is happening to their children in the class. Supervisors must have constant feedbacks from their children. as counselors, the principal himself or herself has to be very deeply involved with children. Because if one is going to spend one's time in administration, the school will not run. Because today the time has come where we need more personal level of relationships with children. And I think that is very imperative. And a lot of things get sorted out. Even just this morning, I had a young man who's been, as he says, ditched by his girlfriend. And he has not been able to concentrate. He doesn't want to eat. He doesn't want to talk. And his mother says, just do something. I've given up. Many parents have abdicated their responsibility. Many parents have given up on their children. You can't give up on children. You cannot dismiss children. You cannot. Otherwise, we are failures. We have no business to be here in the area of learning, because it's a labor of love. If you are dealing with children, it's a labor of love. Whether it is a parent or it is me, we're all stakeholders. We're all partners in this together. And so the first thing I said is, we cannot just say, do whatever you want with the child, get rid of him, throw him out. We can't deal with it like this. So I've asked the parents that you and your husband both come on Wednesday. Let's talk to the boy, let's get together and think about some way that we can help out. Because punitive action, corporal punishments, these things don't work at all. It's very important that we sit together as a family and understand that we need to support each other in all these areas. Very often parents themselves are deeply distressed and they need counseling. So if a parent needs counseling for his or her own life, what would be the level of emotional stability that a child would get? I've had instances of children who've come to me and said, please don't talk to my mother. She's very, very hyper. She won't be able to deal with it. Ma'am, you tell me what you have to tell me. Let my mother be, because she can't cope. I've had children who are taking the burden of their own parents. So if that is the level at which we are dealing with our kids, where children themselves are being burdened with the emotional fragmentation of their parents, where does our child go? And look at the kind of syntax that is being spoken in society, and the syntax that is being spoken in schools, and sometimes the syntax that is speaking in homes. Because very often parents turn around and say, हम तो गाली नहीं देते हैं, घर में बच्चा इतनी गाली दे रहा है. Abuse has become another issue. Abuse is another issue of violence. And what do I notice? Girls have no self-esteem. Their only self-esteem is appreciation through the boys. If they're appreciated by the boys, that is their self-esteem. So we have to make young girls, we have to make young boys believe that they do not need to have that kind of a self-esteem which comes through the opposite sex. A gender sensitivity has to be brought in. And this also is through parent counseling, because sometimes girls very often say, why is my brother allowed to stay out late? Why am I not allowed to stay out late? So these are things that we have to talk about. There has to be certain norms for both the children at both the levels, because that is how we are developing as progressive nations. So there are many issues that are involved here, and we need to see that we have to lead children to themselves. Counseling is about making children comfortable in their own skins, about being careful with themselves. And I think it is imperative, because it has become extremely dangerous today. It's very dangerous, because children are sort of just letting go. You have children who are running away. We have children who are running away from homes. There are children who just run away in their minds and they're not connected. So I think the whole idea of counseling has to be done as a kind of a crisis situation. And it's not about just counselors. It's not about writing a report and saying, now go off to Vimhans or go off to Educare or wherever you want to go off to and get yourself organized. No. The school cannot abdicate its responsibility in counseling. The school cannot leave it to counselors. I think we all have to become an organic unit of compassion and empathy. And only that kind of understanding will work in schools.
Thank you, Mrs. Batil. Problems during childhood and adolescence. It's no longer an issue that belongs to the West. The problem has reached home, our home. Ma'am, raise the issue of gender sensitivity. I would like Professor Kiran Devendra to focus on that, and thereafter, though each speaker has spoken about the ray of light, the spark of hope, but thereafter I would like them to spell out more concretely how does one clear the mess? What is therefore the potential of counseling and family therapy, which may at various levels, whether it's through peer counseling, whether it is sensitizing the parents of the children or adolescents. If school is the only interface, then maybe those workshops and whatever are organized in the school. whatever be the mode, I mean, workshops for teachers, workshops for parents, the children, and orienting all the school teachers so that any empathic human being that the child finds as a teacher is able to act as a professional counselor vis-a-vis that particular child. So after Professor Kiran Devendra talking about aspect of gender, the need for gender sensitivity and dwelling on the positives, maybe a couple of words from all experts, as since we don't have much time, to the ray of hope. Ma'am.
I thought we crossed the bridge when it comes. You have said that I speak and then after that everybody else speak. We need to take one step at one time and we cross the bridge only when it comes. And talking about gender sensitivity, gender equality, I think we in NCERT have done a lot of work, and our role has been a lot in giving our inputs to the policy development as well. When the NPE 1986 was formed, the National Program of Action, and now when the education becomes a fundamental right, we have always had to have played a very positive role. And as far as the gender is concerned, I would like to say that Amita was the only person who was using he and she for the child, because the child is just not he alone. That I have always been, and this happens even in the international conferences, because we do tend to believe that the child is he and he alone. And many of the things that we use, like we say manpower, we need to change that now, because we use human power now, chairperson and doctor. We don't need to say lady doctor and all. She's a doctor in her own right. He is a doctor in his own right. So as far as the gender sensitivity is concerned, I think in the textbooks in NCERT, we have been working since 1986 for taking away the gender bias from the textbooks. But unless and until we also sensitize our teachers, the transaction of the textbooks will be negative. And as Amita has been rightly pointing out again and again, and I think we are on the same wavelength, that the parents have a great role. And as you were rightly saying, that each one of us has to become a counselor for the child. Because in NCERT, we have been working on the attainment of gender equality. Now we are talking of gender balance. And at the same time, we have done a lot of work on corporal punishment, and I'm very happy to see Dr. Nagpal here, because during those days he was writing a lot on the corporal punishment, and we thought that we were able to pick up many things from him and other psychiatrists when we held the 3 regional workshops of the NCERT. The NCERT has developed materials, manuals and posters for creating awareness among all the stakeholders, not only the school but the parents, the administrators and the community members. Everybody needs to be a little sensitive. And as you all know, that the National Commission for Protection of Child Rights has expanded the definition of corporal punishment. It's not only physical, it is mental, it is social, and so many other forms of corporal punishment. Now, since Professor Mehta is sitting and Professor Nagpal, they are both sitting here, I really wish to share this with them, that unless and until the child knows that somebody is there to listen to him or her, don't you think that it's going to impede the performance if the child knows that neither mummy nor papa nor any of my sibling nor anyone is going to perceive me as a child? They are all judgmental. Somebody is wanting me to perform better as a son or a daughter. The teacher's own self-reputation is at stake all the time, and therefore the teacher is definitely going to pull up the child who's not performing well. And once these two factors get together, it is also the peer group that will ridicule the child who is not performing well. So, and the relatives, especially in India, they are very fond of gossips. If Amita's child is not doing well, all of us will get together and say, see, the child is not doing well, and look at my child. The child is getting 90%, the child is getting 95%. I really do not understand that why are we talking of percentages now. You know it very well that NCERT and our Honorable Minister of Education, Kapil Sibal, we have stopped talking about the percentages now. But believe it, the parents even today are talking about the percentages, and even if it is not percentages, they will say, "Arey, the child must get grade A." Let me tell you, I have been a teacher in the university, I have worked in the ministry, and I have been in the NCERT. I feel that working in the NCERT has made me learn so many things and de-learn so many others. Because you see, we can't go on believing in theories that we learnt. We need to pick up new things. We need to give space to the children. I am not talking about the physical infrastructure at all. I am talking about the freedom that the child must get to express himself or herself. I am also talking about the freedom that child must have in choosing the subjects that he or she likes. I am also talking of the freedom that child must have to pick up at the pace that he or she can. It's not necessary that all of us will think alike. It's not essential that all of us must get grade A. And here I would always like to remind all of us, as parents, as teachers, as doctors, as members of the community, that we need to talk and discuss the children as a national issue. If the children are committing suicides after examination, can we blame the school alone? Can we blame the parents alone? It is the role of each and everybody in the society who's interacting with the child to provide a support and not jeer at the child who has not done well. And I had done a paper for the primary teacher where I said, where has their childhood disappeared? When we were children, all of us would remember going to picnics and going out with our parents to Red Cross fairs, going to Delhi Hut, and it gave us so much of time to get together and bond together. And as Amita was rightly saying, I always agree with her that, each time the child comes home, the mother will, if she's a working person, she will call up to say, how was the school? What homework have you got? Oh, please do this. And when I come home, I'll see if you have, crammed it all or not. And when this happens, we go against the National Curriculum Framework of NCERT of 2005, where we are considering the child as the constructor of his or her own knowledge. You see, why do we need to worry about the child's learning? The understanding is more important, and the child will pick up much more if the pressure is not there on him or her. And I don't know, there was a surgeon, I'm forgetting the name of the surgeon in South Africa, where as a child, he wasn't doing well at all, and the teacher thought that the child had the potential to perform, and the child was being disrespected at home, at school, among friends. So he went to the father to say, I am going to take your child. The father said, oh, even if you throw him in the gutter, the American slang, I don't care. And then he took away the child with him. And the first thing that he told the child was, son, the grades don't matter. The moment the child started getting a comfortable feeling of relating to someone who could, not judge him all the time, the pressure was released, and the child started doing extremely well, and he became one of the eminent surgeons of South Africa.
So let me now give him the unenviable task of picking up the mantle to talk about the significance of counseling and family therapy in the context of the mental health, addressing the mental health needs of children and adolescents today, particularly vis-a-vis, I needn't elaborate all over again the problems that they're facing today and what can be done in this regard vis-a-vis the, let's say, the orientation of the parents and the teachers and the adolescents themselves and peer counseling.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. After listening to few of the words here, and I'm sure the panel has in the last few minutes covered almost everything that is relevant to childhood of India. Thanks a lot, and most of you are my respected teachers also. It's a great honor to be here, and thanks to you, Dr. Nirja and Dr. Amiteshwar, for making this day a reality in our lives, not in the lives of the children alone. To me, there are only few words I wish to share. I'm sure the mantle has been already taken up. I, for one, would also feel a little worry in the changing times and what we are going through. For the matter that to me, children and childhood has often got a little confused place at the moment. I do feel somewhere the childhood as a race has been more understood than the journey, and I think in the last few months we have come across a lot of very good change in the education system happening, thanks to people like Amitaji sitting here, and the HRD and the CBSE, etc. I also see a confluence, a convergence of education and health coming together. And there would be a possibility to see a lot of happenings in the future where holism is taken care of. I heard about you talking about the convergence. And I think that, yes, this is the right time. This is the right time to see how we can actually influence the mind of a child through excellent happenings in the classroom, the orientation to teachers, to parents, and to senior children, to understand the value of mind as a health. And I don't agree that, yes, it is the only way to look at counseling and family therapy as the answer, but yes, we need to look at education system on a larger platform. And I think this course would be a fantastic beginning to bring the education, the justice to the child. As you said, the Commission of Child Rights is there, but taking a rightist approach to childhood and the mental health approach would help us a lot to come together on a common platform. I mean, in these few words, I would probably, are there any questions on this now? Are we expecting? Then
not during the telecast time. You have 3 minutes on air.
Okay.
Thereafter, it will be an open house, but on air, 3 minutes.
In that case, I only remember, a few questions that came up from children recently about how counseling services in the schools need to be really geared up. And I think there is a lot of stigma. There's a lot of apprehension. There is a lot of discrimination to children who actually approach the counseling services. Maybe if this forum can actually take up a review of that particular area, I really think that a lot of children who need help are denied, condemned, or maybe stigmatized. And second point in my conclusion would be that, yes, we need to have a healthy family and school partnership, which is missing in our education system. We have the schools, we have the child, but the unlearning and the relearning of the schooling system in the context of good parenting needs to be brought together. And if we can work through such a fine platform to bring the society closer in the larger population, this would be the right platform to actually disseminate the idea and also bring in a society which looks at childhood as a preparation for life and not just for schooling.
This is indeed a long journey. The problem is complicated, and so there are no easy answers. There are no shortcuts either. We as parents need to, all the problems that have been mentioned by the panelists today, somewhere along the line, a strong, supportive family, emotional environment within the family could help in strengthening the base so that our children and adolescents are able to better cope with the stresses and pressures which at the macro level, let's say schooling system, we cannot do much about, but we can at least give them a good grounding. At the same time, let's work together on improving the educational system and the concomitant pressures that have been mentioned. At the policy level, see if there's some difference, but nevertheless, let's make a beginning with our homes and anybody whom we get to interact with. Lend a listening ear, lend a helping hand, lend a shoulder. The person can put one's heads on and be, therefore, as practice as those who are aspiring to be practitioners in the field of counseling and family therapy. I'm sure the insights you would have gained today are something that you would have otherwise got after years of wisdom, after years of practice. So let me, from the core of my heart, thank all the panelists today for really enlightening us. Thank you, everyone.